time as I was growing up, my brother, who I loved to death, had a substance abuse problem. So I took my focus as a police officer and made it about not arresting these people, but trying to get them clean. Because you can't arrest some problems away. It's just, I mean, the war on drugs is what, 40 years old now. They've dumped trillions of dollars into it. Guess what? We still have a drug problem. So I started making connections with these people and trying to get them help, because everybody's somebody's daughter, everybody's somebody's son, everybody's somebody's someone, and they deserve the best shot that they can get. And I can't tell you how many people I've interviewed that have substance abuse problems that come from a history background of sexual assault, child abuse. And you look at these situations, you're like, I can completely understand how someone becomes a drug addict given the information. You listen to some of these people and how they were violently sexually abused as a kid, and it's like, yeah, I got to be honest with you, I'd probably be a drug addict too, because they're just looking for that escape. So things are going really well. I'm enjoying my time in the Army because, again, I had the greatest job in the world. I'm enjoying my time as a police officer. And then one morning I wake up and I didn't feel quite right. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than sometimes you just wake up and you know something's wrong. So I get up, I go to my unit, and I start my PT test. And I'm 1 mile in and 5 steps. And all of a sudden my body starts cramping. And just picture the worst Charlie horse you've ever had spread out through your entire body. And it never went away. So I went years undiagnosed, untreated, every day of spasms, cramps. I couldn't eat right. I couldn't move. There were some days where I actually couldn't get out of bed. And I went to, I can't tell you how many different specialists. And they're like, well, there's something wrong, but we don't know what it is. So good luck. I mean, it's not really a good answer. And it wasn't until I got hooked up with a pain management doctor who we're on our like fourth or fifth visit. She's prescribed me pain meds and gabapentin and all this other stuff. And she's watching me sit there and I can't sit still. Like, you'll notice now, I can't sit still. That just doesn't happen. And she's like, "You've ever heard of fibromyalgia?" It's like, no, I have no idea what that is. So the way fibromyalgia works is there's a disconnect between your brain and your muscles. All right. So your muscles are constantly firing and spasming and moving like you're doing something, even though you're sitting still. Well, unfortunately, the unit I was in, you can't have a neurological disorder and be in. They didn't really know what to do with me. So their best solution was they gave me a handshake, handed me my discharge paperwork, and said, good luck to you.
Adam, how long after your first initial spasms, when you were collapsing, were you let go then?
It was about a year.
Okay. And how did you get through that year? I mean, I would imagine you'd be at work and these things would happen. What would you do?
I would just take as much ibuprofen and Tylenol as I could, and I would try to do the best I could. And one of my huge things, and it ties back to the people with substance abuse, is mental health. Right? It's not discussed enough. Like, you see these, and I hate to say it, but these commercials for online mental health, they're horrible. They're not realistic. Like a guy laying on a bench in a gym with a couple 100 pounds on the bar is like, nope, I got it. That's not realistic. That's not how life works. Like, mental health is never handled like that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And it drives me nuts every time I see one of those commercials. So the whole time for me, it wasn't so much figuring out how to make my body work, because I'm a stubborn SOB. I'll make it work. But I was now faced with, for the first time in my life, how to make my mental health work. Because I loved being in the Army. I mean, it was awesome. And now all of a sudden that's gone. And when I got discharged, I didn't have a definite diagnosis yet. So they're like, we've given you a year, we've taken as much time as we can, but you got to go. I was like, shit. Like
Oh,
that's
were you let go from the Army as well as a police officer at about the same time?
no. I'm still. I never had a break in service from police,
Okay.
and
Okay.
the department I worked at. I wanted to be honest with them, so I went to my chief and I was like, hey, just so you know, I have something going on. This is what's going on,
Okay.
and I don't know what it is. They can't give me an answer, and that was the first time I was met with in the police force that they don't really give a shit about you. You're a number. Can you do your job? That was their only concern. Not, hey, are you okay? Is there anything you need from us? You know, it I got none of that. It was, can you do your job? If you can't, you need to resign. So now I start having all these things compounding on top of, hey, I'm no longer in the Army. Now I'm facing losing my job as a police officer, and nobody gives a shit. I started talking to some of the guys I work with, and they're like, well, you're a liability. I'm like, awesome. Thanks. I've worked here a couple of years and I've never been a liability. Been dealing with this for the last year by myself. And I finally tell you now I'm a liability. So it was hard and I had no idea what to do. So one morning, my solution to what to do was I woke my young kids up. I got them off to school. I got my girlfriend off to work. And I walked across the street and I walked into a church and I'm sitting in a pew and I'm saying a prayer, and this gentleman comes up to me and he puts his hands on my shoulder and he's like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to say a prayer for you. And I was like, at the time, it didn't hit me. I was like, okay, thank you, sir. I was trying to be polite. He said a prayer for me, walked back across the street, and I took all my clothes and I piled them up like a kiddie pool. Took a tarp, draped it on my bed and into this now makeshift moat I had made, or kiddie pool I had made. Got my gun out of the closet, laid down in this little kiddie pool, put it in my mouth and pulled the trigger. And it didn't go off. So training kicks in, I tapped the mag, I racked the slide, put it in my mouth again and pulled the trigger, and it didn't go off. So by the time I realized what I had fully done, I had my gun apart and I was pissed because I couldn't figure out why it wasn't firing. I had two bad primers in a row in the same magazine from the same box of ammo, which according to federal ammunition doesn't happen. And then they stopped returning my emails once I told them why. How I found this out. They didn't want to talk to me after that. And I was so ashamed by what I did that I didn't tell anyone for years. I picked everything up, I put my gun back together, put it back in the gun safe, and I laid in bed and cried for the next 8 hours because I was ashamed. And again, I didn't know what to do. So I go on a little bit and I finally started getting treatments that were helping besides just, hey, we're going to pump you full of as many narcotics as we can. So it was a long struggle. And I would love to sit here and say, hey, my mental health is perfect. I'm good to go. And it's not true. Because when you have a neurological disorder that you have no control over, it you don't know if you wake up tomorrow if it's going to be a good day or your body's going to hurt so bad that going to the bathroom is exhausting. And I can't be thankful enough for my family because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have made it. And a couple years go by. Well, actually, not a couple years, but along all this process, I had my hand kicked closed in a patrol car door. Yeah, it hurt. It wasn't fun.
Did it break anything?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. It broke you actually have five or six big bones in your hand. And if you break one of them, it changes the whole structure of your hand.
And was this your dominant hand?
It was.
Oh,
Um, I'm one of those weird people where my dominant hand's my left hand, but I shoot right-handed.
okay.
So I was like, I could still hold a gun. I could still shoot a gun. I'm good. I go to the ER and they're like, listen, it's broke. You can either get it fixed now and have to have it fixed again later, or sorry, my dogs are.
You're fine. Don't worry.
You can either have it fixed now or wait until it's really bad, then have it fixed all at once. I was like, all right, I'll wait because I'm an idiot.
Well, what do you do to keep that stable? Just wrap it up?
I just waited until the pain eventually just got to a point where it was tolerable. I mean, it was still messed up. I know I'm not smart, but I didn't want to have multiple surgeries.
That sounds absolutely miserable.
It was not fun. And so I eventually had a surgery on it, and I didn't understand the extent of the surgery and how much mobility I would lose in my hand. I only have, what did they say, about 36% mobility and use of my left hand. That's why if you ever see me write, there's kindergartners who can write better than I can. And
But you didn't ever want to try to learn how to write with your other hand?
Oh no, I tried. It was horrible.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm like, you know what? It works good enough. I don't write that often. So now all of a sudden I find myself in a situation again, like I had at the beginning of when I got sick. I'm stuck on my couch and I'm completely useless. I can't use my hand at all because I just had surgery. It's my dominant hand. Feeding myself is incredibly difficult. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried to feed yourself with your opposite hand.
Mm-mm.
It's a nightmare. It makes you want to not eat. I can't do dishes. I can't do anything other than sit on the couch because they made it perfectly clear that if you mess this up while it's healing, there is no fix. So I was like, okay. And I'm sitting on the couch. I'm in excruciating pain. And I felt myself slipping back to that dark spot. I was like, you know what? I can't do that again. I'm going to hop on Instagram and I'm just going to look. And for whatever reason that day, I typed in hashtag suicide into Instagram. And I come across this picture of a guy with one arm carrying a girl through a muddy Spartan course because she couldn't get her leg back on. And it was Lopez. So he starts telling me, I message him just a cold message, hit follow, just cold message him. Hey, how do you tie your shoes?
Hold on just a sec. Say his name one more time because you cut out there.
Jonathan Lopez.
Okay. I think I've ran across him. All right.
He's a cool dude. If you've met him, you won't forget him. But I didn't know how to tie my shoes. And my thinking was if I can tie my shoes, then I can go outside. Because at that point I was stuck in my house. Like, I just wanted to go for a walk. It was nice out. It was the summer. So he's like, give me your phone number. I'll call you and I'll walk you through it. So I'm like, yeah, okay. Because it's social media. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. And we all have run across that person on social media. It's like, yeah, I got you. I'll help you, whatever. And then you never hear from him again. It's like, that's it. So a couple days go by and I'm sitting on my couch and my phone rings. So I answer it because I got nothing else to do. And he's like, hey, it's, Jonathan Lopez. Oh, and he taught me how to tie my shoes one-handed. And it was like this moment of freedom. I was like, cool. Like, I can leave my house now. And, talking to him and going through it, I was explaining my situation. I explained my whole backstory. And he's like, have you ever heard of Operation Enduring Warrior? It's like, I have no clue what that is. I got nothing. I know what all the other operations are, but what military operation was that? He goes, it's not, it's an organization. So he sends me the website and I start looking and I'm like, okay, if these guys can do what they can do with what they have, then I have no reason why I can't do at least what I can do. And fast forward a couple of months, I met this guy named Danny Stokes, who at the time was involved in the organization. And he starts talking to me about INDOC. I was like, I don't know what that means, man. I got nothing. I'm pretty honest. Like, if I know, I know. If I don't, I'm like, I got nothing. So he starts explaining to me the process to become a team athlete with Operation Enduring Warrior. He's like, it'll give you the chance to help all these people you see on social media. I was like, huh. All right, well, I'll give it a shot. And at the time going through the process, they'd only had one other person with my disorder or my disease or whatever you want to call it, but no one had an understanding of what it meant. Right. So, and being perfectly honest, there's medical professionals that say fibro is not real. It's not a real disease because you can't test for it. There's no definitive test. There's no lab they can do and say, hey, this is what you've got. So there's a lot of doctors who think, when somebody with fibro is pill shopping. So I explained the whole thing to him, and I was like, listen, I just need access to my meds. And I go through the whole in-doc, and next thing I know, I'm a team athlete. I was like, okay, cool. I found a purpose. And having a purpose in life, no matter how sick you are, no matter how out of sorts you are, having a purpose gives you a whole new outlook on life. Because then all of a sudden you don't feel so worthless. And having a disease where it's predominantly a woman's disease, I think only 3% of all fibro cases are actually male.
Wow.
So now all of a sudden I found a purpose. I was like, this is awesome. And I dive, because I don't do anything in first or second gear. It's straight to fifth gear. I'm going to go as fast as I can. If I hit a wall, I hit a wall. Cool, whatever. I'll deal with it then. But it just opened up so many avenues, and then I started looking at my mental health again because it still wasn't good. If you've never struggled with mental health, you don't really understand what it means when somebody who is having a mental health day says, I'm having a bad day.